A very good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for coming and welcome to today's session of the Sphere India COVID-19 Academy. Today, we have the third session in this series dedicated to the World Environment Week. We are glad to have you all present here. Now, before I begin today's session, let me start with a quick special announcement. We have with us today Ms. Glenda D'Souza from Enable India, who will be interpreting this entire session in the sign language. Now, for obvious reasons, I humbly request everyone to please turn off your videos if you have not done so already. And my colleague Weber will also help by shutting off the participants' videos manually. For those of us who specially require Glenda's services today, I request you to please find Glenda in the video boxes on the top of your screen. Click on the three dots on Glenda's video and select the option Pin Video, which will make Glenda's video on top of everything else always to you in the session. Now, but don't worry, I will also be writing all of these instructions in the chat box. Now I'll start with the session for today. As you all know, the name of our session today is Air Pollution and COVID-19, Gearing Up for the Future. Just a quick lines about the session. We all have seen that in the last few months, people in many cities have breathed the cleanest air in many years. And it's now clear that strict implementation of regulations and policies can help in cleaning our air and our environment. Each year, millions of people suffer from various ailments due to air pollution, including premature death. And as we adjust to the new normal, we must not forget the importance of clean air. Today's session will focus on the health impacts of air pollution and how to bring key agendas like climate change, just transition, and the green economy on the forefront of economic recovery. To talk about all of this today, we have 5 eminent speakers. Let me please just introduce them one by one. Our first speaker today is Dr. G.C. Khilnani. Dr. Khilnani is the chairman of the PSRI Institute of Pulmonary Critical Care and Sleep Medicine at the PSRI Hospital in New Delhi. He's ex-professor and the head of Department of Pulmonary Medicine and Sleep Disorders at the All India Institute of Medical Sciences, more commonly known as AIIMS, in New Delhi, India. And his research interests also include pulmonary medicine and sleep disorders. He's serving as an editorial member and reviewer of several internationally reputed journals, and Dr. Khilnani is a member of many international affiliations. Thank you so much, Dr. Khilnani, for agreeing to spend some of your time with us today. I know that you have just joined us from another meeting, so we really appreciate you coming for this meeting. Thank you. Our next speaker today is Dr. Nitin Mahajan. And Dr. Mahajan is the Assistant Director, the National Program for Climate Change and Human Health at the National Center for Disease Control, the NCDC at DGHS in the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare of the Government of India. And in this role, he looks after the health programs related to air pollution and public health. Prior to joining the NCDC, he was Medical Officer, Epidemic Control Cell of the Public Health Department of the Municipal Corporation of Greater Mumbai. Thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Mahajan. We really appreciate your time. And he's actually joined here with his colleague. Let me also introduce Dr. Rameshwar. Dr. Rameshwar is an Assistant Director at the Center for Environmental and Occupational Health, Climate Change and Health at the NCDC, Delhi, under the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. Dr. Rameshwar works for the National Program for Climate Change and Human Health and is involved in the activities related to implementation of the program across the country. So thank you, Dr. Rameshwar, for also joining us today. Let me introduce our next speaker, is Ms. Leslie Anian. Ms. Leslie is the Regional Advisor for Occupational and Environmental Health at the WHO Regional Office for Southeast Asia, and she's based here in New Delhi, India. At WHO Southeast Asia Regional Office, she provides support and technical advice on occupational and environmental issues, including air pollution, to the 11 member states of this region, which are Bangladesh, Bhutan, South Korea, India, Indonesia, Maldives, Myanmar, Nepal, Sri Lanka, Thailand, and Timor-Leste. Thank you so much for being here with us today, Ms. Leslie. We really appreciate your time. And our last speaker today is Ms. Prarthana Bora. Ms. Bora is the India Director of Clean Air Asia, an international not-for-profit headquartered in Manila, the Philippines, working towards better air quality in over 1,000 cities in Asia. Based in New Delhi, Ms. Bora leads the implementation of the India Strategy of Clean Air Asia, which includes working with cities to support the preparation and implementation of air action plans. She also supervised the strategy for assessment of air quality management profiles of 30 Indian cities and has been responsible for conceptualizing policy support and capacity building programs for better air quality in Indian cities. Thank you so much, Ms. Bora, for joining us today. That's it for the speakers. Now let me introduce our moderator for the session. Our moderator today is Mr. Manjeet Singh Saluja from WHO India. Mr. Saluja has been working in the area of environment and development since the last 18 years, and he currently works with the WHO country office as a technical focal point on environmental health that includes issues of water and sanitation, climate change, air pollution, and its effects on public health. He has been closely coordinating the efforts of the WHO country office with the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare and other UN partners to integrate health and develop health sector capacity on various environmental risks. Thanks, Manjeet, for also agreeing to moderate today's session. Now, without any further ado, I have already taken up 6 minutes. Let me invite Manjeet to please take this session ahead. Thanks, and over to you, Manjeet.
As shared, this webinar series is kind of being conducted.
I'm sorry, he's not audible at all.
He's not, right? I was just wondering if it was just for me.
No.
And
voice gone completely.
Yeah. Hello.
Manjeet, is that you?
Yes, I'm here. So as I was sharing that, as shared by Asta, that this webinar series is being conducted as a part of the upcoming World Environment Day. And what we are trying to touch is important environmental issues. And in this series, we have already had 2 webinars where we talk about climate resilient health infrastructure and overall climate change. And today we are talking about in particularly air pollution and COVID and how it kind of looks for the future. So here we are touching upon these environmental issues, which certainly have an impact on our health, human health, but also overall planetary health as well. And what kind of I shared even before, I think this thought well captured in the recently concluded the 73rd World Health Assembly, which was kind of very recently held, and the Director General of WHO, Dr. Tedros, kind of he captured this thought in a very eloquent way. And the pandemic is a reminder of the intimate and delicate relationship between people and planet, and any efforts to make our world safer are kind of doomed to fail unless they address the critical interface between people and pathogens and the existential threat of climate change that is Earth less habitable. So I think this whole thought is captured out here. I'll not take much time and kind of immediately bring in our panelists, and I would like to kind of bring in the GC Khani first, as Asta has shared that he's knowledge, and I would like to hear from him on the issue of air pollution. As you know, as a front clinician and also a researcher, how does he see the evidence of health impacts of air pollution in India, both in research papers Dr. Khani?
Hello, okay, am I audible?
Yes, Dr. Khani, you are audible.
Okay, so thank you, Manjeet. How to share the screen? So good afternoon, everybody. First of all, thank you, Sphere India, and supporter of this program, WHO, UNICEF, and it's my privilege to join this eminent panelists on this program, and Manjeet has been instrumental in bringing me to you. So special thanks to Manjeet. And so good afternoon. My job is to scare you a bit with the impact of air pollution, which I'll be touching upon in the beginning, and also try to correlate is there a relationship of COVID-19, which has gripped the world, and we are all scared. There are already close to 4 lakh deaths all over the world. India is going into a spurt of COVID cases. Everybody is on guard. We have recently had a lockdown for almost 2 months. The biggest question is air pollution a contributor or it is a bystander? And that's what my job is. So as I have been introduced, I am a pulmonologist. I see patients with bronchitis, asthma, lung cancer, tuberculosis, and so on and so forth. It was November 10th, 2019. I was sitting in the OPD when my colleague, who is the professor of dermatology, it was a Diwali time. He said, Dr. Khilnani, I got up at 4 o'clock in the morning. I couldn't breathe. I had tightness in my chest. I was sore in my throat. There was whistling sound coming from my chest. I asked him, do you have asthma? He said, no, I have never had any issues. I asked him, did you ever smoke? He said, no. And when I examined him, he was wheezing. And I had to give him some inhalers. And it was obviously because of the Diwali air pollution that he was suffering. And we are quite familiar with these new newspapers, cuttings, Delhi pollution deaths up by 100%, Delhi being most polluted city. And this is the kind of report, AQI report we get 999 because the machines are not geared up to measure more than 999. And this is the India gate that we normally see before Diwali. And this is the India gate that you see after the Diwali. And you'll be shocked to see this is the India gate you see after the lockdown. When the air pollution improved, you can see a clear sky and clear India today. And this is the picture provided my friend, surgeon, Professor Kumar. On left, you see lung.
I'm sorry, he's not audible at all. Asta?
Like this.
Right. Network is
So
weak.
this is where we are.
Yeah.
And contribute an article, past, present, and future. And it was accompanied by an editorial which said that air pollution in India is a lead article, and Khilnani and Tiwari take an unblinking view of this. What this article said that ambient air pollution causes 1.09 million deaths, that's almost 11 lakhs, and nearly similar number of deaths are caused by indoor air pollution. 6,000 there are premature deaths every day, and lung cancer, the COPD are main causes. If you go into the research, there are only few studies from India. There are increase in the premature deaths, there is increase in the respiratory cause of mortality, there is increased acute exacerbation of obstructive airway disease, there is increased health expenditure. So what are the culprits? The culprits are, you know that vehicular air pollution is one of the main industries are there. I need not go into this. And we feel that 57% of the air pollution is caused by transportation and 21% by fuel. But there's something new. Crop burning has added. And of course, the indoor air pollution in India, especially in rural India and part of urban area, is a big culprit. So now come to the question. Is there a relationship of incidence of severity of COVID-19 infection and air pollution? We all know that it started from Wuhan in the month of October, November, and then cases spread to all over the countries. And Italy, United States, United Kingdom, Korea, Germany, Singapore, so many countries were affected. So why we are talking about this? We have already seen that Air pollution leads to more cases of pneumonia. Air pollution leads to more cases of tuberculosis. Pollution impairs the first line defense of upper airways, namely cilia, and increases the possibility of infection. And dysregulated, weak immune system triggered by chronic pollution exposure may lead to ARDS, which actually causes death in COVID infection. Now, this is a picture from Italy, north of Italy. You can see, you can relate to it. You can relate it to Delhi. You can relate it to the most polluted city. And we know that Italy had a large number of deaths. And this is a study which showed, this is the north of Italy and this is the south of Italy. And when it was seen that PM 2.5 in the north of Italy, I need not name the cities, was exceedingly high. And so were the COVID cases. So therefore, if you see this graph, the number of COVID cases and mean level of PM 2.5, as the PM, number of COVID deaths also increase. So there's a direct correlation of PM 2.5 and COVID cases and COVID deaths. There was another study from United States from several counties where they correlated the level of PM 2.5 with the mortality. Now, this is a large study, popularly called Harvard study because it was published from there. The conclusion is that the disease of only 1 microgram of PM 2.5 associated with an 8% increase in COVID-19 deaths. Is it not staggering? Now, why it occurs? Because there are several mechanisms. I know I'm not addressing the doctors, but you would understand that air pollution causes inflammation of the airways, thereby reducing the immunity of the lung. It is also thought that probably 2.5, PM 2.5 is a carrier and conduit of COVID viruses. That is why as the PM 2.5 level in the ambient air increases, the COVID related deaths increases. Now this is a study from England and it relates to various air pollutants with a number of deaths. And I just like to point out that this is the high level of nitrogen dioxide. This is the high level of nitrogen oxide, and this is the nitrogen oxide related death. So therefore, whenever the nitric oxide was high, it related to increased amount of death. And this graph shows the distribution of infectivity data from the United Kingdom, and you can say the nitrogen dioxide, PM210 and PM2.5 were significantly related to number of cases of COVID. So was sulfur dioxide, but it did not reach the statistical significance. And this is a study from Germany. This correlates nitric oxide with the COVID-related deaths. There were 4,400 these countries due to COVID-19 by March. 83% of the fatalities occurred in the region where the maximum NO2 concentration was about 100 micromole per meter cube, and 1.5% of all fatalities occurs in region where maximum NO2 concentration was 50. So if the NO2 concentration was low, the mortality was exceedingly low, and 15.5% cases occurred in the region where the maximum NO2 was. So higher the NO2, higher was the mortality. Summary, an increase in just 1 microgram per cubic millimeter corresponds to 15% increase in deaths. The evidence we have is pretty clear that people who have been living in
Uh, I don't think so. We are is Dr. Khilani audible now? It seems his video seems to be some kind of a network issue, I suppose. But I think the message which he has given is very clear, and he has kind of shared that evidence from various countries. And in this slide also, if you look at this particular, the high level of pollution in northern Italy should be considered as additional cofactor of the high level of lethality recorded in that area. And I think is what kind of being shown in all the other statements as well, in whether it's New York, whether it's kind of he also shared examples of England as well. So I think it doesn't seem we haven't got him back till now. So can I at the moment then bring in Leslie? Leslie, are you there? Yeah. So let me kind of put this question to you, Leslie. That we have seen that air pollution normally, Dr. Khilani kind of gave kind of health impacts of air pollution and what as a surgeon's perspective, and also he shared about he has shown pictures of the India Gate. And normally air pollution is seen to be kind of as a local problem that affects in a street, or if there is some kind of a bad air somewhere, but few people are able to kind of link it to climate change, and is kind of climate change also having an effect on it. So what is the link? Is that how does one affect the other? Is it like, are they related, or are there two different things we are talking about out here? So what's your view, Leslie, on that?
Okay, thanks, Manjeet. And hope you like the background I put here, but this is, I think, one of the good things we're all experiencing as we have challenges with the lockdown. At least nowadays we can look out and see some greenery and some clean air. You asked about the link between climate change and air pollution. Well, climate change is one of the greatest global health threats that we have, and has a widespread consequences to our health, whether it be from extreme heat episodes, whether it be from an increased number of natural disasters, increased severity of those disasters, and also changing patterns of infectious diseases. Now, air pollution is also talked about as a huge problem that we face, and it's the single largest environmental health risk we face. I think Dr. Khilani has already mentioned it causes 7 million premature deaths a year. Whereas intuitively, climate change and air pollution, a lot of people can see, yes, climate is something about the air, and air pollution, it's something about the air. There actually is quite a sound scientific basis for the linkage between climate change and air pollution. Number one is that the sources of the sources that are responsible for climate change are the same sources that are responsible for air pollution. So when we think about, when we look at air pollution, we know that it's very much linked to energy needs and to combustion of fossil fuels. So the main sources of air pollution are transport, both vehicles, aircraft, shipping, all forms of transport that are burning fossil fuels for their source of energy. It's electricity generation, particularly coal-fired power stations. It's industrial sources, which are often using coal as a source of energy. It's open burning of agriculture, and it's residential energy. Particularly 60% of households in our region are still reliant on the burning of wood for their basic fuel to be able to cook their meals. When we look at climate change, the International Panel on Climate Change has said that 80% of greenhouse gas emissions are also caused by transport, by energy, and from industrial sources. So it's very sound links, the same sources between air pollution and climate change. But when we look more deeply, the same pollutants, some of them contribute both to climate change and air pollution, and particularly the black carbon It's one of the greatest contributors to global warming, and that's found predominantly in the PM 2.5. And then we have methane, which is the other big contributor to global warming, which combines with other pollutants to produce ozone, and that itself is a cause of respiratory disease. So some very strong links between climate change and air pollution there, particularly the sources, and that gives us a clue to when we're tackling air pollution, we can also be tackling climate change and vice versa.
Thank you, Leslie. Thank you for this very precise and concise answer, and thank you for this visual treat also of the greenery in your background. But we were expecting a little more. We thought maybe we could have a sneak peek of the Himalayas also from there. But okay,
not quite. No.
Okay, so thank you so much. And with this now, let me kind of bring Nitin Mahajan out here. Dr. Nitin Mahajan works with the NCDC, and he can kind of share with us on the government perspective. And government of India has been kind of proactively been working on this issue of air pollution and health. We have had this Ministry of Environment and Forest. We have had a kind of multiple initiatives from Ministry of as well. So I would request Nitin Mahajan to share some of the actions which the Ministry of Health has taken in responding to air pollution and health. Dr. Nitin.
Yes. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Dr. Manjit and Sphere India for organizing this important webinar on the occasion of this World Environment Day this year. So, and thank you for inviting me as a panelist. So I'm working with the National Center for Disease Control, which is working as the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. So air pollution is the main important problem recently India is facing in many of the cities. For air pollution control in Government of India, mainly two ministries is working. One is the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, and second one is the Ministry of Health. So Ministry of Environment is covering mainly the reduction of the air pollution, that's the mitigation measures which should be targeted towards reducing the contamination of the air. So this Ministry of Environment has various activities they have conducted, like promoting the CNGs and other activities of control over the industries waste. So mainly they have formed one program, this National Clean Air Program, which has been launched in the 102 cities. The cities are mainly the polluted cities in the view of their higher air quality index. So in this National Clean Air Program, the cities have been given like some instructions or guidelines to implement the measures at their level under the government so that the air quality of this particular city should be improved. So National Clean Air Program is one of the important program which is currently going on in the 102 cities, and it is likely to be expanded in 20 more cities recently. And like Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, we are part of this Ministry of Health. So under Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, this our National Center for Disease Control is being designated as the technical agency to work on this health impacts of air pollution. So air pollution causing various health impacts, mainly on the cardiovascular system, others are on the skin, and also on the eye, like eye irritation. So there are many systems which have been affected by the air pollution, but main focus is mainly it is affecting the respiratory system. So we have trying to implement various activities at the national level and also at the state level. So firstly, we have focusing on the data collection about this health effects of the air pollution. And the second activity will be on this mainly the awareness generation among the common people. So how this air pollution is affecting our health, like the diseases which have been mainly aggravated or caused by the air pollution. So many people are not aware about the cardiovascular system is being affected by the air pollution. Like they are thinking that cardiac deaths or respiratory deaths are mainly due to the diseases of this particular system. But air pollution is the important main contributing factor leading to the death of the public. So that important finding should be make to aware the people. So we have been trying to generate awareness among the people, and mainly we're focusing on the cities which have been targeted in this National Clean Air Program. Also, other thing is the medical professionals which are not being that much aware. So we are trying to sensitize them also think about this air pollution as an important factor in aggravating these respiratory diseases, and also to educate the people who are coming to their clinics for with these diseases. So these are the mainly few things which the Ministry of Health is focusing on recently. Mr. Manjeet.
Right. Thank you very much, Dr. Nitin Mahajan. In kind of very concisely, you have shared as to what the main activities of Ministry of Health in terms of data collection, awareness generation, and how you are working with other agencies. And for the participants, let me also share that Dr. Nitin Mahajan, this shows his commitment to the work. He's presently on leave and he's presently in the city of Mumbai, which is facing the ravages of the cyclone Nisarg. And as he's speaking, the cyclone is making a landfall out there. So it kind of really shows your commitment of still, after having faced that natural calamity, you have been with us and kind of you are sharing that your viewpoints with us. Thank you so very much for this. And it also shows the commitment of your organization that we were expecting that just in case if you face some network issues. We also have Dr. Rameshwar from your colleague from NCDC. So he has kindly consented to be as kind of a backup and also share information. So let me kind of also get Dr. Rameshwar out here. And Dr. Rameshwar, if you can broadly share what are the tenets of the National Program on Climate Change and Human Health in a very broad way, and how is it being kind of implemented in the states, how we are taking it in the states. Dr. Rameshwar, are you there?
Unmute, please.
Yes, Dr. Rameshwar, please unmute yourself.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Please go ahead.
Yes.
Okay. The National Program for Climate Change and Human Health is a part of the health mission of the climate change. That is, this Prime Minister's Councils on Climate Change. So according to that, there is this document is there. There is known as the National Action Plan for Climate Change and Human Health, and it's according to this this National Action Plan, which has been placed in the National Health Mission. There is a well-structured organizations in the form of this central, at the central level, this NCDC, this the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. This is technical nodal agency, after which there is a center of excellence. There's a center of excellence. There are two centers of excellence in the country in regarding to the air pollution, and these are this PGIMER, this Chandigarh, and this AIMS Delhi, New Delhi. The both of them, they are looking after the direct and indirect impact of this climate, this air pollution. And this PGIMER Chandigarh is looking after this direct this impacts of the health, and this AIMS New Delhi is looking after the cardiorespiratory part of the impact from the air pollution. And there is two center of excellence. There has been designated for the development of this health action plan, for regarding the health impacts of the climate, this air pollution. And not only that, they are going to develop these guidelines and SOPs and all. And this will be, this enforced in the states, along with the state nodal officers in the country. So, this will reach to the levels of the different cities, and even to the extent of these rural areas. And this will be very much in line with this National Clean Air Program. As we all know that National Clean Air Program, this deals on the mitigations of the this reduction of the sources of the air pollution, and this program deals on the adaptation in the sense that after the air pollution is impacting the health, we are trying to see after the health impact part, on the prevention part, on the control, or on the treatment or management part of the health impact part. This is the line of approach, and at the same time, the ministry is coordinating with other ministries also. At the same time, we are coordinating with the other intersectoral part. We are coordinating the CPCB. CPCB is giving the AQI. We are taking that AQI. We are taking the help of that with surveillance, and these are interconnected. We are seeing the relationship with the the AQI, this data, and we are seeing all the data is coming from the designated hospitals for, seeing the all these, what to say, acute respiratory infections related to the surveillances. So these are the small things. And apart from this, we are also doing the research part also. I mean, research, we're giving input for the research proposals also. Recently, we have given 11 topics now for the research proposal, including the impacts of these air pollutions now. What to say, how these marks and how the this room air, these purifiers are impacting the effects to the air pollution and all. So these are some of the areas. Again, we are dealing about the training or the capacity development of the health workforce. So in the last year, we did one training programs, and for the these medical officers. That was the beginning, and this is going to be expanded. So thank you. These are the areas that we are doing. Many more
Thank
are
you
there.
very much, Dr. Rameshwar. You have given in a nutshell the kind of activities which NCDC is doing in terms of correlating the air quality data with the hospital admissions on for the respiratory illnesses. You talked about the capacity building of the medical officers. So thank you for that. And I think so we have had. We have heard Leslie talking about giving us a global picture and making the link with climate change. We have seen what the government is doing at the national level and even at the state level. We have heard Dr. Khilnani as to what's happening at the hospital level. Let me now kind of bring in Ms. Pratna Bora out here. She is the India Director of Clean Air Asia, and Clean Air Asia works a lot with the city level, and she works with city level governments and the mayors. And so Pratna, I would like to ask that in your experience, how much is the city leadership important, and how do you envisage that kind of a healthy competition may be created among the mayors to reduce the air pollution emissions in the country?
Thank you, Manjeet, and it's really a pleasure to be here in this forum with so many different viewpoints. And I always appreciate when we have different perspectives, because that gives you a holistic picture as far as air pollution is concerned. With regard to your question, I want to approach it in two ways. One is the general situation when, before we were hit by the pandemic, and then I'll talk a bit about what's happening post COVID or, during COVID situation. So as far as India is concerned, we all know, and it was just mentioned that the National Clean Air Program is an overarching umbrella as far as, how cities are supposed to reduce air pollution. And one of the main areas that the National Clean Air program focuses on is the city level air action plan. So the implementation of the mitigation strategies and developing the plans, policy and programs is actually the responsibility of the cities, which makes the cities a very, very important player as far as clean air action implementation is concerned. So as far as the country goes, I think following the announcement of the National Clean Air Program, the cities have been very responsive, and most of the 122 cities have air action plans. But the challenge is that most of these plans are actually directed towards more in terms of a list of action that is to be taken. So we are entering into a phase where we are going to look at implementation strategies, and Clean Air Asia can really, we can speak with confidence because we're working on the ground and talking to these cities in terms of how we can help them implement these clean air action plan strategies. So, I think this is a very important time for us because as we have seen, we have seen what a country can achieve in terms of clean air. And one of the challenges that has been discussed at a city level was how do we decide the baseline, because most of these cities do not have adequate monitoring, and wherever there is adequate monitoring, it is a polluted level that is being signified. So how do we set the targets is what the challenge has been. And I think the present situation has actually been very, very educative for the air pollution community, as well as the regulators who have been involved in air pollution, because it has showed us what we can achieve. So if you look at the case of Delhi, I mean, there has been a 49% reduction in air pollution during the lockdown period, and we have seen PM 2.5 levels reducing by 43%. We have seen PM10 reducing by 31%, which is a huge percentage. And Clean Air Asia has just recently completed a study of Delhi looking at the air pollution levels during the lockdown, and done a small comparative in terms of what it was in 2019 during this period. So if you look, I just remember a little bit of data, but if you look at data from 29th of March, the PM 2.5 levels reduced to 35 as opposed to 150 in 2019, which means that when you have zero economic activity, we can achieve really good air quality standards, but which is not an ideal situation, but it helps us benchmark an air quality level which could be, I mean, not as absurd as 150, but something which could be slightly better, and it's quite achievable. So I think one of the things that the cities can now take authority and really engage in is defining the new baselines and defining these targets. And because the whole issue of clean air is a positive kind of an issue, the government departments and the pollution control boards are now more open in sharing the data. So so there is data available in terms of what the air pollution targets can be, and these, then maybe the what was available during the lockdown is not a realistic target, but it helps you to define that if we can have this kind of situation, why don't we aim at maybe a 20% increase or a 20 or a 30% increase, and this is what would be our baseline. And that can actually help define cities in terms of and this could be the challenge that Manjeet, you just asked. I mean, this is where the competitive process starts. So during the lockdown, we achieved this we achieved as good air quality indices like below 50. So okay, if we can't do it, if we can't achieve that, with full, if we can achieve that in full lockdown, then can we look at reducing emissions to a certain extent that we are able to set up a competitive target which is an achievable target. So and look at baseline. So I think that could be a very interesting process of sharing good practice and also kind of set up a competitive mode between cities.
Yep. Thank you, Pratna. I think that's a great suggestion, and I would maybe kind of explore a little further with you on this particular thing. But let me also check. I think is Dr. Khilnani back, and does he kind of want to finish off with his presentation, because certainly he was trying to make that connection of COVID with the pollution, and if he wants to kind of complete his last slides, or we can ask him another question. I think so. We have Dr. Khilnani, maybe. So we'll check with him again. Let me kind of get Leslie out here, and so Leslie, I wanted to kind of ask you this, that we have talked about the health impacts of air pollution. You also mentioned that there are somewhere around 7 million deaths being attributed to air pollution, and there are kind of many cities in India and also the overall in the South Asian region where there is kind of very poor air quality. So I just wanted to kind of know from you, with this kind of a magnitude of a problem, what kind of a response to a problem of this magnitude be in your terms? And we have already seen COVID and the kind of response, which is also a public health crisis. And we saw kind of last year, Central Pollution Control Board also declaring air pollution as a public health emergency. So, and we have seen the response of COVID in March with the kind of a stringent lockdown. So maybe in your opinion, what could be, when we are talking about 7 million deaths worldwide, what kind of a response to envisage for this kind of a problem? Leslie.
Okay, thanks, Manjeet. Well, I think that one thing about this COVID pandemic that must have impressed us all is the strength of the response and the wide response to this pandemic that has been necessary. And I think that all countries have faced this. And so I think that generally when we're talking about dealing with things which are of global significance, that we needing to have such a response in order to tackle it. And I think that sadly with air pollution, this hasn't been the case to date. In many countries, in the majority of countries, I'd say. And when we think about cities, we know that they're very important, and that over half of the world's population will be living in cities in the future. And so we know that a strong response in cities is going to be particularly important. Cities are also the source of 60% of the economic activity. So I think we have to get back to basics, and we have to start looking at what the sources of the pollution is in these cities. And I think that Prathana touched on there that often an obstacle there is that we have a lack of information, particularly in cities in our region. So we need to take measures to build that up so we know where the sources of the pollution are. And when we know where the sources are, we know then it opens up a range of interventions and measures that can be taken, many of which have been taken before in other parts of the world, as different countries have been on a trajectory of solving air pollution over several decades. And I think it's relatively new in our region of the world, but other countries have got more experience. And I think we've seen with COVID how vital it is to learn from other countries and what they've done. I think the other thing that struck me when we're thinking about air pollution and the sort of type of response that's necessary is that we need a whole of society response, and we need a response all year round. We know that with COVID, for example, we're not likely to be free of COVID until there's a vaccine available to everybody. And the experts tell us that that will be some time away, maybe years away. So we know that without that measure, there's always a potential for the COVID to come back and to be among us again. And the same applies with air pollution. I think that Dr. Kilani talked about Diwali, and Diwali is something which is a very regional issue. Particularly, we know that air pollution spikes are common around Diwali. But until recently, it's been really assumed that it's only Diwali and the bursting of firecrackers that are causing the air pollution. But now our knowledge has moved on considerably, but we need to really make everybody aware that air pollution is above the norm all year round, and therefore we're needing all year round solutions, and we're needing a whole of society approach to those solutions. Speaking on behalf of the WHO, we strongly believe that the health sector, the doctors and the ministries of health and the civil society organizations that are involved with health need to be a key part of all discussions at the city level, so that the policies that are chosen can be health protective. Often when we're talking about solutions, there's a range of different solutions that can be identified, but they're not all equal in terms of how well they are in protecting health. And this is something which we don't really have, the health sector doesn't really have such a strong experience of. They have a lot of experience in dealing with infectious diseases, but we need to get them also engaged with these non-infectious diseases, such as those caused by air pollution. So that, as I said, there's often a range of different solutions, but they're not all equal. So when we talk about vehicles and the fact that vehicular transport causes air pollution, it's not just a simple matter of putting in a clean fuel. There are other broader societal measures that can be taken, designing the cities so that they're not so dependent on vehicles, so that people have choices in how they get from point A to point B. So we need to go back to looking at the different sources, but then develop a very nuanced approach to the different solutions that are available, engage the whole of society in implementing them and choosing which measures to be put in place, but all year round, not just at certain times of the year.
Right. Yeah. Thank you, Leslie. And I think you have brought some very important points in terms of certainly the lack of information, and also, and I think what I also heard from you that yes, for COVID, we have to wait for a vaccine, which could be years away. But for air pollution, I think the government has demonstrated that even for a short-term action could lead to such a huge change in air pollution, and with those pictures, I think are an evidence to it that these short-term actions also can out a huge. And also I've been seeing in the chat box as well that a lot of on the
Manjit, we can't hear you. Your voice is breaking up quite a lot.
Hello?
Manjit, your voice is broken up. I think it's must be a bandwidth issue.
Thanks all. Let me just quickly check with Manjit and see what's happening there. Just looks like he's lost his that mic symbol next to his name. Let me just quickly check. Thank you.
Hello?
Hi, Manjit.
Yeah. Yes, sorry, I kind of got dropped out in between. So sorry for that technical glitch. But I wanted to kind of bring in Dr. Nitin Mahajan, since as I was saying that we are getting a lot of questions in the chat box on the government's response, and where Leslie has already talked about on the lack of information. What are the government efforts in terms of plugging this gap in terms of lack of information? We heard Dr. Rameshwar also talking about something between AQI and ARI, a correlation. Can you explain us a little bit of the government? Dr.
Yes. In Government of India, actually, Ministry of Environment is the main agency which is being working for this control activities of the air pollution. And one is the Ministry of Environment. There is one Central Pollution Control Board is the implementing agency. So they have monitored, they have implemented various air quality stations all over India. So likewise in Delhi is the main capital of India and having the many main air pollution issues. So around Delhi there are about 80 to 85 air quality monitors are there. And also these monitors are placed in many of the main metro cities and other cities of the imports in various states. So there are two types of monitors. Few are the automatic monitors and few are the manual monitors. The automatic monitors, they give the air quality index without manual interference. So they directly check the air quality and give the results throughout the day in 3-4 times. So that air quality values can be checked on the CPCB website also. Anyone can access that CPCB website and air quality values can be checked. Other cities where automatic monitors are not available, manual operating system is there. So that data should be manually entered. So that data is also available on the Central Pollution Control Board website. So CPCB has installed many air quality monitors all over the country. So this will give the air quality data access. Also, they have an app also. Samir app is being generated by this Central Pollution Control Board. So in that app, you can get easily idea about the particular city, about the air quality index of that city. So you can download the Samir app from the Google Play Store, and this should be widely publicized, and every people should be aware about the air quality index of their locality. So and other various control measures have been implemented by this Ministry of Environment. Like in Delhi, there are various activities are undergoing. The water sprinkling during the winter season, also the stoppage of the industries and the pollution level checking of the industry. So transportation restrictions also odd even formula. So these are various measures they have been implementing. So Ministry of Health main role is to this establishing of this surveillance system for the health effect data, because air pollution is the thing that we are not having the exact data about how the air pollution is affecting the health. So we are trying to establish our network of surveillance throughout the country. So for that, we have one program, that is National Program on Climate Change and Human Health, which has already been told by Dr. Rameshwar. So under this national program, we are trying to establish the system all over the country. So we have been appointed one state nodal officer for climate change. So this program is mainly for all the climate sensitive diseases. So under which one main component is the air pollution. So for air pollution, we have targeted 4 activities. First is to generate data about the health effects of air pollution. So we are trying to establishing one surveillance system across the country. So we are focusing on this national clean air program cities, because 102 cities has been already identified, and these are the metropolitan cities, and these are the cities having the big challenge for the air pollution control. So various activities have been already undergoing in these 102 cities of the NCAS. So we are focusing on these 102 cities because it is easy to correlate this health effect data with the air quality index data. So we can easily analyze that. So this exercise has been already initiated in Delhi since last 1.5 years. Since November 2017, we are collecting data from this 6 central government hospitals: RML Hospital, Lady Harding Hospital, AIMS, Safdarjung, and VP Chest Institute, and National Institute of Tuberculosis and Respiratory Diseases. So these 6 hospitals, they are sending data about this acute respiratory illness emergencies attending to their emergency department. And this data we are correlating with the air quality index of the Delhi, air quality of this particular Delhi city. So in last 1.5 years, we have observed that whenever there is a rise in the air quality index, the corresponding rise in the increase in the number of patients is being already seen. So this system we have trying to establish in other cities also. So for that, we have identified this state nodal officer for climate change, which is working at the state health department of the particular state. So we have already given training last year also in December 2019. One national level review meeting has arranged with the help of WHO only in the Delhi. So and in this workshop, we have trained all these nodal officers about this implementation of these various activities of the air pollution. So this is the one part of the collection of data. Second part is mainly the IC awareness. So at national level, we have designed various ICs. So many of the air pollution ICs that are already running on this our national NCDC website. Similarly, many ICs are also there on the Twitter handle of the Ministry of Health, and also we have designed that and we have shared with the Ministry of Health website also. So these ICs have already shared with the state, and we are motivating the state to create more ICs and to give wide publicity to this IC during the winter season, where air pollution level reaches to the peak level. Third part is our mainly to prepare one hospital preparedness plan for this air pollution crisis event. So during air pollution, there is the rise in the respiratory disease patients. So the hospital should be well prepared to handle this kind of emergency. There should be sufficient availability of the specialist doctors, availability of the medicines and logistics. So in such cases, there is an increased requirement of this oxygen supply, and also the ventilators and like the other the breathing apparatus which requires for the like this in COVID season also we are requiring this ventilator system and other respiratory disease requirements. So we are making one hospital preparedness plan. We already prepared one plan and shared with the state, and we are taking inputs from the state so that it will get finalized, and that plan should be shared with the cities which are facing this air pollution crisis. So the hospitals, tertiary care hospitals should be ready with the handling this kind of air pollution crisis events. Also, we are taking this training of all the medical professionals at the state level also and at national level also. So last year only we have organized one training for the state doctors from the Uttar Pradesh state to implement these activities of say, air pollution surveillance and all this kind of air pollution related activities. So we are gradually expanding our program to reach the state level and to the district level. So these are from NCDC point of view. Mr. Manju.
Right, Dr. Nitin, I think you spoke about activities as well as you also shared that the government is doing a lot in terms of the IEC as well in terms of awareness raising on these on the air pollution. So I think we also have Ms. Pratna, and I think Clean Air Asia has been implementing a lot of awareness programs in various cities, and we are seeing that you work with the youth. You also are a partner to WHO and United Nations Environment Program and CCAC for the Breathe Life campaign. So, and there have been surveys that show awareness is rising, but they get too much at the individual level. So, what, in your opinion, is Pratna, that a few interventions that you can share it to the audience that we can initiate ourselves from today itself? What could be some of those individual actions which the we should share with audience on this particular issue?
Thank you, Manjeet. Very pertinent question, actually, because we are going to be we are going to be moving slowly into a situation when we'll have to move out of our homes because slowly as things are opening up. So I think as you said, there is awareness, but as Dr. Nitin said, I mean, there is very little data that correlates the health impacts, and this is probably where there is a need for further research and dissemination, so that people become more conscious of the fact in terms of how pollutants are affecting them, and especially I mean, we have recently completed a micro study which was on child health and PM10, PM2.5 levels, especially looking at the active hours when children are playing, how you can look at the air quality and involve a school system in staggering playtime. So I think one of the things that is really required is micro level data on health and looking at how some vulnerable sections are impacted, and even then how the general public is impacted. But coming to your question on what are some of the individual actions that can be taken for clean air, so that we continue to have blue skies, maybe not so blue, but slightly darker shade of blue. But I think one of the things that our lives are going to be, our lives will change a lot post the lockdown, especially because social distancing is going to be a way of life. And that puts a huge risk in how we get to work, the transportation systems, how we are in our workplaces. So I think one of the things that we really need to look at, I mean, there's already a lot of conversation that people are not going to be comfortable using public transport. So how does one address that? Many people who have never used, some friends of mine who have never used a private vehicle are contemplating buying cars because, because of the whole, the issue of social distancing and how will it be, adequately implemented within the public transportation system. So I think one of the areas that we as individuals need to really look at is what would be the safest and the most less energy use, cleanest mode of transport for us as we resume our work activities and our life activities. So that would be, what is the choice that we make? And that is probably where the cities also will have to play a major role, because, people will be walking more, they will be using non-motorized transport more, because, it is more about just you. And hopefully the transition isn't such that, there are more cars on the road. The second is that I think workplaces have gotten used to the fact that working virtually is possible, which itself reduces the need for transport. So I think it is important that large businesses, large organizations can look at, how much they can reduce the the commute to work, so that we can continue with reduced mobility. I mean, reduced transportation, so that our roads are not full of cars again. And finally, I think there is the industry, especially the small and medium industry, how can start looking at technology, because it's like we were in a phase where we were closed for a long time, and then now we are coming back to open. So I think, can we look at options of cleaner technology that reduce emissions? Can we look at options where we start looking beyond just the power sector or the energy sector and look at smaller industries, how they operating? Can we look at associating reduced emissions within this energy sector? So I think these are three areas that are going to be very important. I think the lockdown has also taught us that we can survive with less, and sustainable production, sustainable consumption were never really discussed directly in the context of air pollution. So I think this is a great opportunity for us to also look at how we can look at an ecosystem where we are looking at concepts which are very much part of sustainability and integrating them within the air pollution discussion.
Yeah, I think very rightly identified, Pratna. You talked about the transition in the workplaces. You talked about cleaner technology, and even yesterday when we spoke about the climate change issues, we were kind of coming with the fact that yes, all the panelists shared about sustainable consumption. I think now let me kind of go back to Dr. Khilnani, since he's here with us, and I think we were on in his presentation. I would let him complete the presentation, but Dr. Khilnani, if at the end you can also address as to how the COVID, what are the lessons from this COVID response, and then how you want to kind of relate it to air pollution kind of response as well. If you can address a little bit.
Sure, thank you, Manjeet. My apologies for because of technical glitch. So I was talking about, is there a relationship of incidence of COVID with air pollution? There may be some repetition. The pollution impairs the first line defense of the upper airways, namely cilia, and dysregulated immune system is the one which causes infection. It's not only COVID, it may be other viral infection. We saw it during the SARS, we see it every day in tuberculosis, we see pneumonia. And this is a picture of Italy, northern Italy, which looks like Delhi, in Diwali area. And what we saw in this paper, that this is the northern Italy where there is an increased level of air pollution, and there's increased level of COVID deaths also. And if you see in this graph, as the PM 2.5 increases, the incidence of COVID and COVID deaths also increases. So similarly, in the United States of America, in several counties, it was seen that increase in only 1 microgram of meter cube of PM 2.5 was associated with 8% increased COVID death. This is staggering. And what about United Kingdom, that is England? They measured air pollution, and they also seen that there was a direct correlation with nitric oxide with increased level of COVID deaths in the United Kingdom. What I want to bring out to you that there is more than sufficient evidence that COVID, which has gripped the whole world, there is a direct correlation with increased level of 2.5, PM 2.5, PM 10, nitric oxide, and also sulfur dioxide. And this particular plot shows that PM 2.5, PM 10, and nitrogen dioxide, they are directly related, although sulfur dioxide and ozone are also related, but did not come to statistical significance. And this is from Germany. There were 4,443 fatalities in these countries due to COVID-19. 83% of all fatalities occurred in regions where the maximum NO2 was above 100 micromoles. And there were only 1.5% fatalities were there where NO2 was low, and 15.5% fatalities occurred where NO2 was 50 to 100 micromoles. Therefore, the nitric oxide, which is a very important pollutant, was directly related to COVID deaths. So this is a summary of the evidence that we have. There's increase in just 1 microgram of PM 2.5 leads to 8% increase in COVID deaths. That evidence is there that people are living in these places over time have higher mortality. Parts of New York have annual PM 2.5 level consistently above the safe limits. So probably that's one of the reasons. And if you could reduce the level of air pollution. Now, this is Wuhan. This is what happened during before the lockdown, and the right side is after the lockdown. And this is what is happening now after the lockdown. As the unlocking has occurred, again the air quality has gone bad. So what is the message? What we have learned? And from the personal experience, I'm telling you, so many patients phoned me during lockdown, especially patients with asthma and bronchitis. They said, Dr. Saab, your medicines are working well. I'm feeling much better. But I told them, look, this is not my medicines. It is mainly because the air quality has improved. Your asthma has got better control. So therefore, what can we do? This is my last slide. My previous speaker emphasized about minimizing the travel. This lockdown have taught us a lot. We can do without traveling. We can do without going to the market every day. We may not socialize. We may avoid unnecessary travel. Majority of people working in the software industries are working from home. I know from my personal knowledge that even in the West, my children have learned to work from home, and they have been told that there's no need to even think of coming to the office till September. This is because they have realized it is possible to work from home and do equally good work or a better work. So controlling air pollution is everybody's responsibility. The government is taking action in improving the fuel quality. And as we know that in California 100 years back, the pollution was as bad as we have in India. But 100 years down the line, the number of vehicles have gone up 10 times. The air quality has improved 10 times because of good engine quality and good fuel quality. It has to be a multi-pronged approach. Improving the engine quality, improving the fuel quality is a government's job. Minimizing the travel, not doing unnecessary travel is our job. Stopping crop burning is government's job as well as our job. So we all have a responsibility. We have already seen the benefits during the lockdown. The air quality improved. We were all breathing better. Our feeling of well-being improved. Our trees became green. We were able to do more exercise, at least I can say from my personal experience. And if we do that, COVID will come and go. People keep asking me when the COVID will go. COVID may go after 2 months, it may go after 6 months, but it will go. Like the Spanish flu lasted for 2.5 years, COVID may last for a longer time. But air pollution is there to stay. Air pollution is reducing our lifespan. Air pollution is reducing our quality of life. Another COVID will come. Another flu will come. Another pneumonias would come. Another infections would come. But if we control our air pollution, our quality of life, our longevity of life will improve, and our generation will be benefited from that. I'll stop here and will be happy to take any questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Khilani. I think you have really kind of even I was going to ask next. I think you have already given your prescription as to what is really needed, and I think I really like that line that air pollution is everybody's responsibility. That's what we have been kind of discussing. We spoke about the national government, state governments. We spoke about what could be kind of done at the local level, and we also spoke about what we could do at the individual level. So it has to be a kind of a collective responsibility for everybody to kind of reduce those emissions. Very quickly, kind of getting, since I'm keeping an eye on the time, and we are kind of almost 75 minutes into this discussion, and we have only 15 minutes left. So maybe all the other panelists, I would like to know your prescription as to how we can use COVID-19 to transition to a greener and healthier future. Maybe two prescriptions, and Dr. Khilani has already said his set of prescriptions. Leslie, can you give us two prescriptions as to how we can move to a greener, healthier future?
Yes, thank you, Manjit. Well, I think that we've been talking about cities. I think we need to really make sure that we have got investments in the essential public services in place, particularly in cities, since that's where a lot of the population are, but obviously the rural areas are very important as well. So we need to make sure that there is good water so that people can wash their hands to prevent infections and so on. We need to make sure that there's clean energy for everybody. As I mentioned earlier, 60% of households in our region still relying on burning wood to cook their meals. So investing in essential public services and infrastructure is a key one. And the second one would be, I think, this whole thing to remember to protect and preserve nature. I think that many of us have really valued this downtime to realize that we've been overlooking nature for too long. And one worry is that with the rush to start the economy, that we might take, politicians might take the advantage to downgrade our environmental protections. And so that's something that really is a concern to me. So I think that we've seen how finely balanced nature and our economic and social and health is to that. We need to really preserve that fine balance.
Right. Thank you, Leslie. Dr. Rameshwar, two prescriptions from your side. You need to unmute yourself first.
Okay. What I would like to say there is that this COVID-19 has given such a huge, this impact on the people, not only, this locally, the whole, the world, and this is giving such a thought that everybody stops and they think only for the COVID, nothing else. And it's such an impact. And the indirect or direct impact is that it's giving the best impact is given to the, this environment, as you can see in this air pollution and all. So behavioral change, although there are concerns of this psychological fear, or there's a new, but the thing is that the behavior change has got to learn, and we have learned it, and we are utilizing that behavior changes, and we are trying to adapt and have tolerance, and we are going with it at the present moment. This is what is required for the future also. Thank you.
Right. Dr. Nitin, what are your prescriptions for a greener transition?
Hello. This COVID-19, yes, I'm audible.
Yeah.
This COVID-19 gives us a clear picture that this air pollution has many contribution by the human activities, like this heavy transport and the industrial pollution. Because after stoppage of this, after this initiation of this COVID-19 situation, many of the cities, they have reported clean air throughout the country. So this clearly indicating that there is a bigger contribution from this industrial and the vehicular air pollution. So we can do some planning regarding by controlling these two main major factors for contributing this pollution, and step by step we can make some legal actions, like to how this can be made in the convenient zone. The airport should be in the convenient zone for this many cities. So that is for one thing, it is possible. So we can work on this thing.
Right. Thank you, Dr. Nitin. What are your two prescriptions for a greener future?
So I think, Manjeet, that the COVID-19 and the lockdown has taught us that, you know, our cities need to be built. You know, we need to relook at how we build our cities. If you look at the last 2 months, we have, you know, been very dependent on the service sector, and we've survived because of the service sector. We've survived because of the local resources that have been around us. So I think how we integrate that into the planning process is very important. A simple example, I mean, if you look at it, it is the local vegetable vendor who has supplied us with our food, and in our cities we still do not have space for such services. So I think how we redesign our cities and look at, you know, what is the basic need and how do we actually integrate it is going to be very important. And that itself is going to bring up the whole concept of circular economy and you know, kind of lead to reduced air pollution and things like that. The second prescription would be adapting the ecosystem approach. Leslie mentioned about how we need to integrate nature. I think traditional conservation theory dialogue talks about integrated land, water, living resources planning, and we've kind of moved away from that. And I'm glad that this situation has actually brought us back to discussing it. So I think one of the things that planners, policymakers, and people like us who are engaged in this whole dialogue need to start rethinking and talk about the ecosystem approach in every activity that we take up.
Great, thank you so much to all the panelists for kind of being very brief in your remarks, and I think giving us a great set of recommendations to move forward. And I've tried to write down some of them, and again I think we are kind of talking about similar things in terms of essential investments in public services. We are talking about clean energy. We are talking about circular economy, so that kind of we don't have to go for virgin material and we recycle those. Adaptation of the ecosystem approach, and a multi-pronged kind of a multi-ministry and a multi-pronged approach to this problem is kind of very, very important. And again, coming back that it's again everybody's responsibility. It's not just one stakeholder, but we all have to come together to solve this problem. I now kind of our audience have been asking very pertinent questions in the chat box, and some of them have been kind of I think medical questions, which I would kind of give it to Dr. Khilnani, but there are some other questions as well. But over to you, Astha, if there is somebody who has raised his or her hand and want to kind of ask the question directly.
Right, thanks Manjeet. There is indeed one raised hand from one Jayesh Vyas. So Jayesh, I hope you're hearing me, because I'm going to unmute you now. And once you're unmuted, you can please ask your question directly to the panelists. If you want, you can also tell us which panelist the question is for. If not, then I'll invite the panelists to step in if you want to address the question. Jayesh, here I go. I'm unmuting you now.
Right, thank you. My question is to Dr. Nitin Mahajan. Now, he talked about the number of monitoring stations. Now, we have two types of such stations, the continuous as well as the manual. Now, we know that the number of monitoring stations as continuous, I would say, are very less in number. And most of the stations are manual. So there are several chances of manual error while collection of samples. Then we don't know whether all the laboratories where the analysis is done is NABL accredited. And we also don't know, and we have not assured whether the instruments are tamper-proof. So first and foremost is, I mean, there is a doubt about our data, whether we are getting the correct data. And the another thing is that many of the cities, they do not have source apportionment studies. So we do not know what exactly is the cause of air pollution, whether it is due to vehicle or it is industry. We always blame industry, but the industry, there is a air pollution due to industries, but it is at a defined space. But vehicle is everywhere. It is right in our home. Pollution everywhere, and it is, I mean, we cannot do away with it, though with industry we can. And we do not have the most important thing, we do not have a policy of I mean, formatting, or I mean, determining the health plan. It should be.
Can you come to your question directly, please? We have already have two parts of your question, but is there any third part, or we kind of
no third part? I'm ending. We must. I suggest that we must have a health action plan for each and every city of every 3 years. Thank you.
Okay. So right, got it. So we are talking about the monitoring data. We are talking about the health action plan, and we are talking about the source appropriation studies of various cities. So, Dr. Nitin, your comments on these 3 points.
As I already told that this air pollution, this thing is mainly controlled by 2 different ministries. So, and with the actions of these 2 ministries are different. So for the Ministry of Environment, so this the mitigation measures for controlling this air pollution is mainly done by the Ministry of Environment. So and under the Central Pollution Control Board, they have implemented many of the activities. And this air quality monitors, yes, you have told that I think there are up to the mark, but this the CPCB is regularly increasing. They are converting all the manual AQI monitors into the automatic. And they are also installing the more and more new manual and automatic these monitors day by day and month, year by year. So in the near future, their count will be the higher. So actually, these are the parts of this Ministry of Environment. So I am actually mainly concerned with the Ministry of Health, but I just include that part because of this related to the air pollution. So I am not having the exact details of the current status of the monitors. But where there is a concern of air pollution, all the cities are having some adequate number of these monitors. That's much information I have.
Hello, Dr. Nitin, can we decide a policy where we may ask all the cities that they must have a health action plan, because ultimate effect of all types of pollution is on health.
Dr. Nitin, can you talk about the health action plan? Just again touch upon that part again as well, Dr. Nitin.
Yes, I have already told that under this National Program for Climate Change and Human Health, we have already given one just a rough, just a template for this health action plan for particular this air pollution and health aspects. So at national level, we have prepared that plan from last 2-3 years. The many states have started taking action on this. So the many states, I told that the appointment of the state noodle officer for climate change, and they are preparing the 2 kinds of things. One is the hospital preparedness plan, so for this kind of air pollution related diseases, and second is the health sector plan. Under the health sector plan, we have established the one environment health cell at each state health department division. So this environment health cell is mainly focusing all these kind of diseases which have been affected by the environmental issues. So the state noodle officer of climate change is being actively taking all these activities that I have audited, that IC awareness and this capacity building of doctor and this data collection by doing the surveillance. So these all things are have been started from last 2-3 years, and day by day it is going on. But it is a new program, so we have not reached up to the mark levels, but it is constantly in the increasing phase at various states.
And Jayeshi, under the National Clean Air Program, I think all the 122 cities, many of them are already conducting source of apportionment studies. There is already a mandate, and also under this program, there is a city level action plan which is being made, which again integrates the health component. We don't need to kind of have separate health action plans for various cities. The whole point out here, as what the panelists have said, has to be multi-pronged and kind of integrated approach. And I think that's where the end plan has to be kind of integrated, which includes all the components. But let me also invite Dr. Pratna in case if she has some kind of an expert comments on these particular 3 questions.
So I just wanted to add that presently there are about 573 stations spread around 240 cities. And I think one of the mandates of the National Clean Air Program is that, to improve monitoring. And until now, we were very dependent on continuous monitoring stations, but the National Clean Air Program actually, accepts the fact that the cities can look at low-cost sensor-based monitoring as well as satellite data-based monitoring, which is a very positive kind of positive move. So basically, we would have multiple types of data coming in. As far as the source opportunity study is concerned, as far as the National Clean Air Program is concerned, as Manjeet rightly said, one of the positive and very, very proactive steps that have been specified is that academic institutes within a particular area region are being attached to the Central Pollution Control Board to actually prepare these source opportunity studies. So as Manjeet said, that the work is already underway. And as far as health impact assessment is concerned, it is integrated into the Clean Air Action Plan. And I think the problem will happen if we have too many different forums, because I think a couple of years there was a steering committee which was formed for air pollution under the Ministry of Health, and there was very good work done in terms of recommendations. But because it was within the Ministry of Health, it hasn't. I mean, it couldn't really. I mean, it didn't achieve the kind of results that it should have achieved. So I think it's best that we have an umbrella program like the National Clean Air Program. But what is very important is that cities need to set up targets and also deadlines in terms of when to achieve what, and so that we have proper deliverables. Thanks, Manjeet.
Let me also get over here very briefly, Dr. Khilnani. There have been some questions on the medical side, and one of them relates to, is air pollution responsible for endothelial dysfunction? There are some questions on the PPE, the hot topic right now, and what are the problems may occur using masks for a longer period of time. So I think if you can just very briefly touch upon the PPE part, and if you can make one line about the endothelial dysfunction as well. Dr. Khilnani.
Oh, you have asked too many questions. I'll answer one by one. Easier question first. There's no question that there's endothelial dysfunction in response to air pollution, and that is actually the pathogenesis of any infection, be it COVID infection or viral infection or bacterial infection, or even to the extent of tuberculosis. Actually, whenever there is an attack on respiratory system, the alveolar macrophages are the one who engulf the viruses or the bacteria, and that leads to the generation of cytokines, including tumor necrosis factor. These are intricacies which actually causes endothelial damage and what is called as inflammation. Now I go to the second part of it about mask, which is everybody's concern. As this COVID infection came, everybody rushed out for N95 mask, N99 mask. Now there come N100 mask. Then the question came that you can use a cloth mask, and any cloth mask, can you put it on, or use a handkerchief, so on and so forth. Now there are two things about it. One, are we talking about COVID infection? The COVID virus is a fat virus, is a heavy virus. Any cloth, cotton cloth, will stop this virus. Now what is important is that how do you wear a cloth or a mask? You must have seen all the people walking around, they close their mouth and leave their nose open for better breathing. So that is rubbish actually. If whatever you may use, you have to close from your nose to the chin. Now, if you wear an N95 mask, which we wear for doing procedures, and it is actually right here in with me, if I could show it, I'm in my office. So, if you wear an N95 mask, and if you wear it properly on your nose, you will find it very difficult to breathe. And there is also some evidence that some carbon dioxide accumulates. So it's not very easy to tolerate N95 mask, which actually is not recommended for everybody. It is recommended only for people who work in the hospital and they are exposed to variety of infection. We use it all the time during the procedures. So when you want to use the mask, like this is a simple surgical mask. Incidentally, I'm in my office, so I can show you. So when you wear it, you have to do it and then fix it near the nose and then tie it here and also tie the lower part so that it covers your chin. Unless you do that, you are not doing any service to yourself. The other test is that if you are a bispectacle like me, and if you are using a mask and if your glasses are becoming foggy, that means your mask is not properly tied. Who gets the benefit from the mask? I am talking about the COVID. If you wear the mask, you are benefiting others, not because the person is unable to throw viruses in the environment. And if you are wearing a mask, you also get a protection. So that is why, since the majority of 80% of people we know are asymptomatic, you don't know who is infected. It is recommended that everybody coming out of the house should wear a mask and keep a distance of at least 1 meter if possible for 2 meters, because even when you excrete viruses, they do not travel beyond 6 feet. So don't go for any fancy mask. And other thing what is important is that when you wear a mask, never touch front of the mask for itching or whatever. If you do that, you are doing harm to yourself. And these are the few things I wanted to say about the mask. Now, when you use it for air pollution, it's a different ball game. Today, I'm not going to talk about. I know we are exceeding the time. Now, the PPE is this personal protective equipment. People have come to know only after COVID, but we have been using it for difficult infections in the intensive care unit. PPE is like, if those of you have had the chance to nurture young infants in the winter when you cover them from foot to face. This is something like that. And there's a particular one, the quality of PPE is very important, and I must say that substandard quality is unfortunately now available in India. It should not happen. They should not be porous. And there's a particular what is called donning and doffing. Donning is how you wear the PPE. It is worn in such a way that you need one help, and which each step, which I cannot tell you at this stage, you have to clean your hands. You always wear 2 gloves, and finally you wear a mask, you wear an eye shield, and then cover yourself completely so that no virus, which are very tiny particles, can enter your system. Now, what is the biggest mistake is doffing. Doffing is how do you pull out your people, finish the procedure and they just pull it out everything. No, there's a particular method of removing PPE that outside of the PPE must not touch your clothes. That is very important. There's a particular method of removing your mask. The lower part has to be removed first. There's a particular way of removing your gloves. So this probably is too intricate for this, but this has drawn attention of the country. Unfortunately, there are hospitals where more than 100 people, I know All India Institute also, there are 195 healthcare people are being affected. This is really, really unfortunate. And I'm aware of the ICUs in the United States where not a single healthcare worker got infected with COVID infection. This is only because of good infection control practices. It also requires so many other things like negative pressure ventilation, dual air exchanges per hour. Air conditioning ducts are the biggest source of infection. We cannot use the usual air conditioning for COVID ward or COVID ICUs. So this in brief was the answer to your question. I can go on till tomorrow morning, but I'll stop in the interest of time. And if there are any questions further about the mask, which is actually very important. As we have unlocked what I think you all would have seen in the outside your house, people have gone into a release phenomenon. People have gone into release. They have thrown away the mask. They don't cover the mask. They started meeting at the shops. They mix up. I must tell you that COVID protection, you have to do it yourself. You have to become paranoid. Everything and anything comes into the house, look at with a great suspicion that this could be COVID. A paper coming into the house, a box coming into the house, vegetables coming into the house, milk coming into the house could be contaminated with COVID. So you have to be extremely, extremely cautious in protecting yourself. If you protect yourself, there's evidence that if there's one COVID case, if you don't follow the precaution in 30 days time, 406 people will be infected. Whereas if you follow social distancing only to the tune of 75%, there will be only 5 infected patients. So this was a brief. Thank you very much for bringing me in. I'll stop here. Thank you. Manjit, over to you.
Manjit, can you hear us? I think Manjit may have lost his connectivity again. Thanks so much for that, Dr. Khilnani. That was fascinating to hear.
Yeah, thank you so much for bringing me here.
Thank you.
It was amazing listening to everybody. Dr. Rameswaram, Ms. Prarthana was amazing, I must say. And of course, Dr. Nitin is from my fraternity, so I'm thankful to him. I have a specialty that I am a pulmonologist who worked at AIIMS for 30 years. And I worked in air pollution for 30 years and did a lot of work. And that's how Manjit and me, know each other. So it is a pleasure to be with you all, and listening to you. Ms. Prasna's comments about social responsibility have actually moved me a lot, and I like to be in touch with you, ma'am. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Dr. Khilnani. That was so nice of you to say. I think Manjit is no longer here, but I know that he was intending to also just give a vote of thanks before we close. So thank you to everyone, all the panelists, participants. Sorry that some of your questions have remained unanswered because we've gone over time. So perhaps you can write us over email and we can connect you to the panelists later if at all possible. Thank you, Glenda, for interpreting with the sign language today's session. We really appreciate all your efforts.
She was great. She is great.
She's so good, and she always does it with a smile. She's here every day. Glenda, thank you so much.
I really enjoyed her. I was trying to understand, but she was great. Thank you.
Perfect. Thanks, everyone. Let me just quickly end with a couple of administrative announcements, and then we can go ahead and enjoy the rest of our evening. Thank you again, panelists. Just one more second while I share the screen. And again, thank you, participants, for sticking around. I know that we've had some internet challenges today. We appreciate you still being here. Here we go. Okay, so I hope everybody can see my screen right now. I'll just take another minute to go through this. I have received some comments in the chat box about the certificate of participation, and the answer is yes. You will all get your certificate, but to do that, you have to follow a couple of simple steps, okay? Please go to our website. The website is sphereindiacovid19academy.org. You will have to look for this session and click on the button certificate, after which please enter your email ID and you should be able to download it. So the answer, short answer, yes, long answer, that one. We will continue with our series of environment-related sessions tomorrow as well. Same time, 4 p.m. to 5:30, plus minus 10 minutes. And we will be talking about waste management in quite some depth tomorrow. So please join us, and the panelist's name you can see on your screen at 4 p.m. tomorrow. You will be receiving emails about this session sometime later today. And if lastly, for anything else, if you have any feedback, suggestions, questions, please do write to us at covid19academy@sphereindia.org.in, and we'll try and get back to you as soon as we can. Thanks so much again, everyone. Thank you, panelists, participants. Manjit, if you can hear me, thanks, Glenda. Appreciate you all being here today and wishing everyone a very good evening, and hopefully see you all here tomorrow. Bye, everyone.